Glad to see all of you here. This is a little different format. We'll talk you through it, so don't worry. Don't get too nervous about this. But we're going to start off, as we always do, with our invocation coming from Angela Broom-Powell.
Most gracious and loving God, we come to you today in humble gratitude, grateful for our blessings, and fully aware that others are not as blessed as we. We are grateful for the food before us today, fully aware that others have nothing to eat. We are grateful for the fellowship here with our families, our co-workers, our friends, and we are fully aware that others are alone and lonely. We're grateful for the roof over our heads and the bed we lie down in every night, fully aware that many have no home and the comforts that we enjoy. And we are grateful for our freedoms of speech, religion, love, and the right to pursue our own happiness, fully aware that others are oppressed and cannot enjoy these rights. Let us remain mindful and grateful for our blessings, and let us do the work needed to change the situations of those less fortunate than us. Amen.
Thank you, Angela. Mark Norman has been just chomping at the bit to introduce our guests and visiting Rotarians.
Thank you, President Mike. I do wish to welcome our visitors and our guests today, visiting Rotarians and our guests. When I call your name, if you would please stand and remain standing until all have been introduced and we can give you a warm welcome. And like those before me, I extend my apologies for those names for which I will certainly butcher. Visitor, we have Megan Dean, who is a guest of Mike Hawley, back there. Annie Ding, who is a guest of Bill Gill. Stan Thompson, a guest of David Toby. Bryce Chambliss, a guest of Edward Peacock. Marjorie Brennan, a guest of Michael Wallwinter. That's the one I was going to give. Sorry, Michael. I know you, but I'll get it afterwards. Scott Dumler, a guest of Howard Hoyle Jr. Denise Hallett, hard to call her a guest, but a visitor. It's a guest of Terry DeBoo. Glad to have you back. Skip Tappy, a guest of Jim Gibson. And Dalton Shaw, a guest of Vernon Menard. In the back. And our visiting Rotarian is Howard Layson from the Cabarrus Rotary. Thank you. If everyone would join me in welcoming.
Michael, stay standing and join everybody else in standing and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Something you've all been waiting for. Ed Pickett to lead us in a song.
Hold your applause. Hold your applause. This is going to be short and sweet because we have distinguished guests. But give it a look. Meet a little group with a dedicated table from group 2. Everybody in stage left is group 1, the stage right is group 3. We're going to do roll. And anybody who messes up will have to write their name on the bulletin board. 3,550. Group 1, let's go. Roll, 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 gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is a dream. Roll, 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 gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is a dream. Oh, that was a chorus. That wasn't a round.
Thank you, Ed. It's keeping us all cognitively engaged here. Thank you. Some quick announcements. As you know, there's a real emphasis this year from Rotary International and our club as well on Interact and Rotaract. We've got a confab that's been put together at Myers Park High School, where a number of the schools that we're involved with are all going to be there. We're going to talk about that, what we hope to accomplish at a session in Studio 2 immediately following this luncheon. The folks that are going to be there from our club will be in that discussion. But if you're interested, we'd love to have you join us. We'll have plenty of seats, I hope. And it'll just give you an idea about what it is that we're trying to accomplish with Interact and Rotary. And so, with that, I am turning the mic over to John Lassiter, who is going to recognize the recipients of the 9/11 Rotary Golf Scholarships. John?
Thanks, President Mike. This is a great honor for me and a great honor for our committee. Several committee members are here. Would help me, like you would, please stand up. Saw several around here. We had a wonderful honor again this year to award 9 scholarships, recognizing first responders in our community. For a little bit of history lesson, our club held a meeting on 9/11. And many of us in this room came in here not sure what was going on that day, what to do. That following year, I was the program chair and asked the then President Tom Robertson if we could pass the hat and kind of remember what people had done in our community. We raised $9,000 that first day. And we knew we were onto something and figured there was a way to take that and leverage it into something more important. And we began a golf tournament the following year in 2003. We're now in our 15th year. We have granted somewhere north of $850,000 in scholarships. We have been able to change the lives of a lot of young men and women whose parents are members of either police, fire, sheriff, or EMT. And we're honored to have the 9 recipients again here today to have you meet them and their families. Some could not be here because of other schedules, vacations, some even starting school early, but wanted to have you meet with them, and I'll call them in order. The first is Madison Cherry. Madison is the daughter of firefighter Captain Ronald Cherry and his wife Brenda. And Madison is at Sun Valley High School. She's a member of the National Honor Society, a member of the varsity basketball and soccer team, and drumline captain, Madison Cherry. Tell the group where you plan to go to school, what you plan to study.
I'm going to Maryland Institute College of Arts, and I will be studying animation and game design.
Second recipient is Bailey Garden, who attends graduate Gaston Day School. Bailey is the son of 9/11 operator Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Department Polly Kitchens and her husband John. Bailey won the Volunteer Service Award for her school. Is a member of the varsity basketball team and the International Thespian Society. Bailey Garden.
This fall, I will be attending the University of Appalachian State, and I will major in political science with a concentration in legal studies, and I will also minor in psychology.
Third recipient is Mackenzie Garlick, a graduate of Independence High School. Mackenzie is the daughter of firefighter Glenn Garlick and her mother Sonia, member of the National Honor Society, a competitive figure skater, and a Special Olympics coach. Mackenzie Garlick.
In the fall, I'll be attending University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and I will be studying exercise science.
Quentin Hooker cannot join us today. He's a graduate of Stuart Cramer High School and the son of firefighter Captain George Hooker and his wife Donna, member of the National Honor Society, varsity football and wrestling, an Eagle Scout, and member of the Volunteer Fire Department. Quentin Hooker. Did Matthew Lopez arrive? Okay, so Matthew Lopez was supposed to be out here though. Matthew is a graduate of Culberson High School. He is the son of Carlos and Jennifer Lopez. Carlos is a K-9 officer, handler, Charlotte Mecklenburg Police Department, team captain both varsity football and wrestling, and works several jobs part-time to provide for his other activities. Matthew Lopez. I think Madison Miller is also not here. Madison Miller is a graduate of Mount Pleasant High School. She is the daughter of Shelley Miller, EMS revenue cycle manager, and her husband Jeffrey. She's a member of the Beta Club, varsity tennis, and yearbook editor, Madison Miller. Ashley Pridgeon is here. I think I saw Ashley. And she's got a whole family here, including her very engaging sister. Ashley is a graduate of West Mecklenburg High School. She is the daughter of Robert Pridgeon, a sergeant deputy, Charlotte Mecklenburg Sheriff's Department. Mother Erica Pridgeon. She plays varsity volleyball, volunteers for the homeless, also works part-time. Ashley Pridgeon.
I will be attending Federal State University this fall, and I will be majoring in computer science and minoring in criminal justice.
Caitlin Towery. I saw Caitlin up here. Caitlin is a graduate of North Gaston High School. She is the daughter of firefighter Captain Shane Towery and her mother Shelley. She is a member of the National Technical Honor Society, plays varsity softball, and volunteers with Samaritan's Purse. Caitlin Towery.
I will be attending the Gardner Webb Hunt School of Nursing.
Our ninth winner is Margaret Wagner, who is a graduate of Pine Lake Preparatory School. She is the daughter of CMPD Captain Christian Wagner and his wife Amy, a member of the National Honor Society on the robotics team, and a camp counselor, Margaret Wagner. Join me again in congratulating both the students and the parents for their service to our community. Thank you all very much, and I believe after the luncheon we'll all meet over here in the corner and get some pictures that you can share with your friends at home. Congratulations.
Thank you, folks. Yeah, John has told me to remind everybody about that picture, so if I forget to remind you, now's the reminder. And I guess if I could get Angela Lee and M. Searwich to make their way up here, we'll get our panel discussion started. But I did want to say, in following up on John's comments, that our 9/11 golf tournament is really important. It's a big deal. And so you're going to be hearing more about it as the next weeks roll out. But if you aren't signed up to play, we need to get you to sign up. If you're not signed up to sponsor in some fashion or other, we'd love to have you do that as well. And as you'll hear from the two mics and this mic, the three mics, this is not just for golfers. And we're hoping that you Rotarians who are not golfers will come out and just come out and visit. Sit in one of the tents that we're going to have set up. You can watch all the fools out there playing golf. It's great entertainment. So, in any event, we're going to press on with the program, and I guess I'm going up here with this mic. While I'm doing that, if we could, let's give a big round of applause to Sandy Osborne and Jessica Dupree for all of the stuff that they do that we never see, but which is so important to what we do every day here. So please. This is pretty impressive, isn't it? He's sitting up here like this. Look at this, ice water and everything. I mean, this is incredible. Thank you, Sandy. So we were joking a little bit. Sandy has been scouring the hotel for interesting things that she sees, and she says, "Oh, I like these dried flowers that are sitting out there on the stairwell. Bring those in here." And so we're, yeah, this is uptown. Thank you. So quickly, in the Rotary Ruminations and the announcement that went out yesterday, you have the bios of both Angela and M, and so I'm not going to repeat those at length. Let me just tell you, though, Angela Lee is a big deal. She is the director of Charlotte Water and has assumed that position as of December of last year after serving for decades in the department and in the city. And so this is, you're about to hear from a real veteran in this space. Just some quick statistics, 950 employees under her watch. Her budget, $460 million. $460 million. That's got a few more zeros than our budget here. 8,600 miles of water and sewer lines. And it's an incredible thing that she manages. We'll get into it here in a minute. And then M, you all should know well, our pianist here, but her day job is the executive director of the Catawba Riverkeeper Foundation, which is a big deal as well. And she's, of course, a native of Michigan, has been here with us for a number of years. Just a quick item from her background. She is a graduate of the Vermont Law School. So I say you can never have enough lawyers up on a podium. And we got 2/3 of the people up here. So let's give them both a quick round of applause. Okay. And could you maybe tell us a little bit about what the Riverkeeper Foundation is and how you kind of differentiate yourself from what Angela does?
Okay, sure. So for those of you who don't know, in fact, a lot of you probably do know because you've spoken to me before, but for those of you who might not know, the Catawba Riverkeeper Foundation is a nonprofit organization. We're headquartered here in Charlotte, but we serve the 26 counties that comprise the Catawba Watery River Basin in North and South Carolina, and our mission is to educate, advocate, and to protect that river basin. So while Charlotte Water extracts water from the river and treats it and distributes it into all of our homes and businesses and things, what we do is fundamentally different. She is Angela here is in a utility-based organization, and I am in a public interest organization. So basically, we are working on behalf of the public to make sure that the river Charlotte Water gets, the river water is clean and plentiful and affordable, and that they can treat it and deliver it in that manner. So we're separate, but we kind of work together in a weird way. So
that's good. And I'll tell you what, Angela, could you pick up on that and tell us what you do as far as distributing and dealing with wastewater?
Sure. What we do is we have 2 intakes on the Catawba River, so M is correct. We do pull from that source to serve this community. And so what happens is that when we say intakes, we actually draw water in from the river. It flows by gravity to 2 of our, well, we really have 3 water treatment plants. But the 2 intakes, one in Huntersville goes to our Dukes plant, and that's off Highway 73. And then we have the big Franklin plant that is on Highway 16, Brookshire Boulevard. And it water flows by gravity to there. And then if you've seen the large tanks on Baileysport Road, we also transport what we're calling raw water from the river to the best water treatment plant. And so once the water reaches the plants, we treat it so that it is able to be consumed and used by the community. And how we do that is a complex network of pipes and pumps and tanks in the water distribution in this community. And let me give you a feel for how much pipe Charlotte Water has. If you were to lay all of our pipe from Charlotte to San Francisco, back to Charlotte, back to San Francisco, and then to Vegas, that'll give you about 8,600 miles of pipe that we maintain. But after we distribute the water, it's used by this community. And what we say in Charlotte Water is that we serve about 1.2 million people. When you look at the connections to Charlotte Water and the people who work in our community who don't necessarily live in our county, after water is used, And let me qualify here, wash, brush, flush, okay? After water is used, then it enters the wastewater collection system or sewer system. That's different than stormwater, okay? The stormwater system really only works when it rains, and that's another enterprise fund that the city has. But if you wash, brush, flush, you're using Charlotte water. So water enters that wastewater collection system or sewer pipes, that's another word for it, and then it ends up at a wastewater treatment plant, and we have 5 of those in the county. The second largest treatment plant in North Carolina is actually behind Carolina Place Mall. And so the wastewater collection system is another complex system of pipes and what we call lift stations or sewer pump stations underground or close to creeks. We have 80 of them that you really, you really don't really see them. That's just part of what we do. We're working in the background. And once the water enters our wastewater treatment plants, we treat it as mostly a biological process, and then it enters the streams at a quality higher than the actual stream quality. So really, in a nutshell, that's what Charlotte Water does. We take water from the Catawba River, we treat it so that it's used by this community. Then once the community uses it, we take it back, we treat it with our wastewater treatment plants, and then we release it in a nice quality. It's really full circle. And by the way, and let me say, we're one of the best utilities in the country.
There you have it. We're proud of it. So, Em, can we go back to you, and can you tell us exactly where in your river that intake is, and so that we can avoid getting sucked into that thing? Where is that thing?
You are not at risk. It's just in Huntersville. If you,
Life landing,
yeah.
and it's deep.
Okay.
So it's at the bottom, and you won't get sucked in. We got
You're safe.
So, Em, and either Em or Angela, and I guess Em, we've now got up your graphic, which is the entire Catawba watery basin. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I always usually start my presentations by talking a little bit about the geography of the river itself, because a lot of people don't understand our river's geography very well. So at least once a week someone comes up to me and says, well, I don't live on Lake Norman, or I don't live on the Catawba River, I live on Lake Norman. And I have to inform them that they actually do live on the Catawba River. So here's where we are. So this is a map of the Catawba Watery River Basin. It changes names in South Carolina, but it's the same river. It's 225 miles long. It runs from Ridgecrest, North Carolina, to Lake Marion, South Carolina. It contained in or touches 26 counties. It's in both North and South Carolina. We have 11 lakes. We call them lakes, but in actuality, they're impoundments. There are no natural lakes in our river basin. And so our impoundments, our lakes, they are the river. We have 14 dams, so just a few more dams than we have impoundments, which is, again, kind of unique. If you were to take all the streams and creeks in our river basin, which is actually a small to medium-sized river basin, it's not that huge, it would be about, we guess, probably about 5,000 miles of waterways. We have the world's largest habitat of rocky shoal spider lilies. Has anyone been to Landsberg Canal State Park to see them? Okay, a few people. They're amazing. They only grow in 3 places: the Savannah River Basin, our river basin, and a river in Peru. So people come from all over to see them, and they're amazing. We in total, our river supplies 2.4 million people who either live or work or both in our river basin with water, which is a lot for a river our size. And we also supply those people with power, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. But we are one of the most endangered rivers in America, and people don't often understand that. We were number 1 in 2008, number 5 in 2015, and thankfully we're off the top 10 list. But American Rivers assures me that if there was the top 11 list, we might be on it. But I know what we're doing is working, right? We're headed in the right direction. That's what we want to see. And so we can talk a little bit about that later, but this is a map of the top half of the river basin. So from our headwaters up in the mountains down to Mecklenburg County, the state line, where our river basin ends. And I extracted this from the North Carolina 2010 Impaired Waters list, not because I want you to see impaired waters, but because it's a really good map, actually. But the red marks on that map are impaired waters as of 2010. I believe as of 2018, 100% of the creeks in Mecklenburg County are considered impaired, which means they're not fit for prolonged human contact. So one of the things that we are trying to work on is improving that quality. As in urban streams and creeks, we want that to be of high quality. So that's one thing that we're working on. But hopefully that gives you a good picture.
Yeah, that's great. And Angela, could you maybe talk to us a little bit about who actually uses water in your district and how they use it?
Sure. We have 285,000 accounts, and 88% of those accounts are residential accounts. So that would be, accounts to serve our population. About 3% is industrial, what we would classify as industrial users. Then the rest in between would be schools, hospitals, different types of, institutions. But the vast majority of the water really goes to service people.
Okay, and then how about just industry-wise and volume-wise? I mean, do you have a sense about? Are the residential use? How much is the residential use relative to the commercial?
It would be 88% of 107 million a day.
Okay.
So we average, and that's about what we're pumping right now. Just if you look at it from an annual average, about 120 million gallons a day we pull from the Catawba River to service the Charlotte-Mecklenburg region.
Before we go back to M, tell us a little bit about the economics of all of this. How are we paying for this? And I've seen some of the charts that you put out, and that water actually, on a relative basis, is a whole lot cheaper than gas, electric, and cell phones, right?
Yeah, sure. Of course, we are an enterprise fund of the city of Charlotte, which means we work off of water sewer rates, not off of property taxes or any other types of taxes. And so that's how we fund Charlotte Water. The average bill is around $60. $1 will buy you 267 gallons of Charlotte water. So we always, say, drink tap water. Nothing against our competitors there, but it is really economical, and that's really how we fund the water sewer system in this county. And it's by paying those bills monthly, those water sewer rates.
Great. And
Yeah.
so I was telling Em earlier that I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, where the Cuyahoga River flows right through downtown Cleveland. When I was in high school, it caught on fire. So when I think of polluted rivers, I'm kind of thinking of that. I also lived in Florida for a while, and some of that Apalachicola Basin is basically picked clean before it now gets down to the Gulf of Mexico. And so I think of us here as being very fortunate that we have a great volume of water that comes through us. If you look up there, there's not that much population north of us. And so the question, Em, is why is it that this river is considered the most endangered river east of the Mississippi?
So when they categorize endangered rivers, they do so in kind of like a threefold way. They look at water quality, water quantity, and what they call water security, which are the laws and policies that govern water of any given locality. So in our case, we have 4 primary issues that land us on the endangered rivers list. And so in no particular order, they are development, stormwater, coal ash, factory farms for poultry in the northern part of our basin, and then what we call the energy water nexus, which seems like a kind of an obscure catchphrase. And what I mean by that is it's how much energy we use, how much water we use producing energy, which is huge in our river basin. In fact, we're often referred to as the most electrified river in the country because we have the highest concentration of power production facilities on a river than any other. And in fact, historically, the Catawba River was the first river system in America developed solely for power production. When the Bureau of Reclamation and the Army Corps of Engineers started developing river systems in the US, they did so because municipalities needed water supply for citizens, or farmers needed water for agricultural needs. Our river, however, was totally developed for power production, which makes it unique and sort of gives it that historical justification for how we are in this situation. So those are the four things that concern us most and concern most law and policy entities that monitor water.
Thank you. And Angela, Kim Bratton is terrified that there is going to be a water main break in her neighborhood, and she's read about the infrastructure being just incredibly, under-maintained and underdeveloped for years and years, and that we're about to go under. What is the status of the infrastructure of our water system?
Oh, wow. And Kim, no fears. I mean, we consider ourselves reliable. We do have a rehabilitation program for our water and sewer pipeline infrastructure. We also have that for our water and wastewater treatment plants. So, for example, for our sewer system or wastewater collection system, we do about $20 million a year in rehab in this community. And on the water side of the house, it's a little less expensive, per foot. We do about $14 to $15 million a year in rehabbing our infrastructure. That is so important because when you look at national news stories like Flint, Michigan and other areas, water rehabilitation and wastewater rehabilitation is just something that a water wastewater utility needs to do. Our efforts are to increase. We have a goal of what we're calling a 1% renewal rate. That's like a best practice in our industry. And we're sitting at about 0.5% of that right now. But we're over time, as long as we have support for rate increases and all that kind of good stuff, we want to continue to rehab and reinvest more into our water and wastewater system in the region.
Could I have a follow-up question?
Certainly.
So how old are the pipes under Charlotte?
We have some, yeah.
The question is, how old are the pipes under Charlotte?
We have some pipes in the ground from the 20s who don't give us any problem at all. So age is an issue, but age isn't necessarily the overriding factor. It could be construction practices, it could be actually pipe type. But Charlotte Water's been around since the late 1880s. When I worked at the Beam back there, I pulled out a piece of pipe from 1889. But that's where the water rehabilitation comes in, because we can go in and we evaluate age, we evaluate frequency of leaks, we look at pipe type, and we methodically, there's a method to the madness, we methodically go in and rehab our system.
I'm telling us that age is not an impediment, it is a well-received policy.
It's not the overriding factor. It's a factor, but not the overriding.
So I'm going to ask you both a question and kind of do it sequentially so you can be thinking about it, because I hadn't asked them to think about it. But Em, I'm going to ask you about ploggers and the stuff that you sometimes pull out of the river. And then Angela, I'm just going to ask you to talk a little bit about some of the people that you have working for you. And in particular, I saw on your website that you have, so when you go to the hospital, there are orthopedic surgeons, general surgeons, et cetera. At Charlotte Water, they have pipe surgeons, and I'd love to hear about some of those folks. But ploggers, tell us what ploggers are and do and what that name's all about.
All right. So if you watched the news, you likely saw this. One of the programs we have at the Riverkeeper Foundation to combat some of the pollution from stormwater runoff into our streams and creeks is to do river cleanups, river sweeps on streams and creeks, and also our impoundments. And we last year alone, by the way, we got 74,000 pounds of trash from the Catawba River, just the Riverkeeper Foundation. That doesn't account for any other tonnage brought in through Adopt a Stream or any other private entities doing cleanups. That's just us, 74,000 pounds. Well, we have a group called the Young Allies of the River. It's sort of like a young professionals club for people who support the Riverkeeper Foundation. And they did an event called plogging. It's something we got from Sweden, from the Swedish words pluck up, to pluck up. So we partnered with the No Duh Run Club, and we met at No Duh Brewery, and we sent everyone out in different directions with a bag, and they would run 3, 4, 5 miles, and as they would run, they would pick up trash along the streets, in ditches and things. And I mean, we got an exceptional amount of trash just from that event, but that's all stuff that we prevented from going into our water. So it was a good
Great
event.
stuff. And while Angela's talking, I want you to tell us the weirdest thing that was plucked out of the actual Catawba River. Okay, Angela, you're up. Tell us about your people.
Oh, we have absolutely the best people, the best water employees in the nation. And they, our folks really are not recognized for the good work that they do. We have folks working 24/7. We are a large water system. We're the 17th largest in the country. So it requires people to make our system work. And, I always tell our folks, I love Charlotte Water, but I love the people behind the water more because of what they do and the sacrifices that they make every day. We have folks from GEDs to PhDs, right, working in our utility, and all of them have one common thread, and that is a love for water and a commitment to this community. So I just love our people.
Okay, and we'll take a couple questions right after, but tell us what's the weirdest thing coming out of the river?
We get a lot of weird stuff. We get 9 shopping carts one time out of one stream cleanup. We get hundreds and hundreds of tires a year. We have a gentleman who collects balls, sports balls that wash their way down to South Carolina. He's gotten 20,000 of them. But the weirdest thing that we plucked up was actually in a brewery employee stream cleanup. They actually found a 4-foot tall, it was a 4-foot tall clown doll. It had a porcelain face. It was very frightening. But, leave it to the brewery folks to get the weird stuff.
There you have it. I'm telling you what. Okay, questions? Yes, Herb.
There was a very big controversy in the eastern part of the state with Gen X on the Cape Fear River. What do we do to prevent that on the Catawba? And how do we measure, make sure that something like that doesn't happen?
Question is, how do we prevent, I've got to repeat these real quickly, how do we prevent what happened in some of the Eastern European, or Eastern North Carolina rivers relative to here?
Yes, we are doing a lot of testing, and maybe Em can talk more about prevention. Right now, we have not found Gen X, okay? But we are testing for that and other, what is called emerging contaminants in the source water, just to make sure that we have our treatment processes in line to eliminate anything there. But yes, there's a lot of testing that we conduct as a part of business because we do pull from the river.
And a quick follow-up from you, and also what you're doing, you do some testing of the public water fountains and things of that sort.
Well, yes.
Then we're going to MAC.
Our Riverkeeper staff, they're our boots on the ground. They're constantly out patrolling in boats and kayaks, and they do 2 aerial patrols in small aircraft per month of our entire basin. And then they do water sampling, sediment sampling. But one thing we are doing is we're partnering, the Riverkeeper is partnering with 5 colleges and universities and U.S. Geological Survey to do a study of contaminants of emerging concern, like she said. So the things that may evade treatment that we don't want in the water.
And they're going to stay up and field questions from any of you afterwards. Mac, you got the last question.
Angela, you mentioned that we're pumping an average of 120 million gallons a day now. What's the maximum that you can pump, and look into the future, out 50 years? What's the capacity of the river to support our growth for 50 years?
Okay, you asked me a question that I don't know right off. I know it's over 200 million. And the Catawba Water Management Group is a group of 18 utilities plus Duke Power to look at the capacity of the river and to make sure that it sustains our region. Right now, what we're hearing from that group is that we have good sustainability until year 2100. That doesn't mean we run out of water at 2100, but that does mean that what we need to do in terms of long-term planning, look at utilities, look at the efforts and processes to continue the river being in a condition where we can support our community.
So with that,
And I'll get with you on the maximum we can pull out.
we'll mail that to you, Mac. We'll mail the study to you. What everybody's pointing to somebody in the back. Yeah.
Just one more thing.
Right now,
Well, hold on a second. We're going to shut this down. I'll tell you what. Come up, talk with these folks because they're going to be here. They're not going anywhere. And neither are the folks who are going to talk about Interact and Rotaract. We're going to be down at Studio 2, so head down that way. I will remind all of the folks, the scholarship recipients, about the picture over in this direction. If you would, join me in giving a big round of applause to Angela. I wanted you to know I didn't touch a drop of this bottled water. I'm only drinking Charlotte's finest here today. And so the other thing I thought was pretty cool in your video was, and I'm sure everyone, a lot of people here picked this up, 90% of beer is water. So, very cool. Anyway, please join us next week. We've got a great program next week. Benton Bragg has signed up. Jim Morgan, who's the former chairman and CEO of Krispy Kreme. The last time he was here, he brought Krispy Kreme donuts. I don't think he's going to bring them this time, but be there anyway. It'll be fun to listen to. We're adjourned. Thanks.